It's 10 o'clock. We'll call the January 14th, 2021 Administration Committee meeting to order, please. Lynn, we'll start with certification of compliance with open meetings law, please.
It has been met.
Thank you. And roll call, Lynn, please.
Tweed Schuman,
Here.
Dale Schluter,
Yeah.
James Schlender,
Here.
Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Tom Duffy.
Here.
Great. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Let the record indicate, Lynn, we have a quorum. The meeting agenda has been presented. If there's no changes, we'll move on. Okay, moving then to number 5, public comment. Anyone here, Mike, anyone online for public comment? All right, and hearing none, then we'll move to number 6, minutes from our previous meeting, administration, December 10, 2020. Mr. Kinsley.
Move to approve as presented.
Mr. Duffy, second. I got a motion by Mr. Kinsley, second by Mr. Duffy to approve the meeting minutes of 12/10/2020 as presented. Is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 7, Veteran Service Department report. Gary,
Hi, good morning. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
December, we had 449 phone calls, 315 letters, emails, and faxes, and 85 office visits. We closed out the year at 71 disability pension claims to date, and received retroactive payment of a little over $400,000 for claims that's cited in the veterans' favor. Our training is up to date.
Gary, Mr. Kinsley has a question?
Yes, sir.
When you file these claims, how can you put an average on how long it takes to file one individual claim? Is it multiple times they have to come in? Is some easier than others, I would presume? Can you put an average how long it takes? Or think about it? Just hard to say.
It all depends on what it is. And yes, some claims are easier than others. For me, I try to put myself down for 1 hour to try to get everything done. That's if I can. There's sometimes you got to get additional information. Sometimes you have to, call up to or release information to different hospitals, medical facilities to get their records. If not, if it's straight in the VA, then the VA has a duty to assist, which means that they need to go get the records for the veteran. If they have problems, they're supposed to notify the veteran for the veteran to go in personally and get them and hand them to the other branch of the VA. But for the most part, if all the evidence is within the VA or within the VA's reach, it goes pretty quick. If it does, as far as putting a claim together. Now, after it goes out to the VA, I mean, in some cases, I was looking this morning, and I think the average case for what claim was it? They're looking at, it was like 255 days average, and it was for, what's it for? I think it was something. For the Vietnam veterans. It was Vietnam veteran involved. I don't remember specifically which one it was, presumptive, but all the stuff is on file, and it's taking that long. Our regional office is closed right now. It's been closed. They're all working from home. So if you call in, somebody has to go in and retrieve that information and call you back. They're asking for emails. Of course, a lot of people don't know that either going in. So it's been slow. Things have been slow. Like I said, for me personally, I try to do it in 1 hour. Sometimes it takes multiple trips back to the office, for whatever reason. So whether that's to get other information or the VA goes, will you clarify? They got to come in and sign. I can't necessarily sign for them in some cases.
Sure.
So.
Thank you.
Does that help at all,
Yeah.
Mr. Kinsley, or is there something specific?
No, that's just one in general.
Okay.
200 some days is way too long, but whatever.
Oh, it is, and it's with COVID-19, it's just gotten way worse. I've got, for example, I sent in 2 claims back in, I want to say end of May, 2 veterans, same disability, same company taking care of the VA. One they went right through, and in 30 days, it was service connected. The other person is still waiting. and still waiting, and still waiting. And it was like, it was the jokers that picked it up. They just kind of kicked the can. They went back and recreated the wheel. They already had this individual in country Vietnam. No, that's how it was a successful claim before that was already standing. But they went back and went, okay, show us that you were in Vietnam. And they went through that whole thing with the National Personal Records Center, which is in St. Louis. There's probably 1,000 people that work in this building, probably. And they're at 10% capacity. And you think of the entire nation going through to get, military records out of that one facility for probably 80% of the veteran population. So it's slowed down. But for this one guy, they recreated the whole wheel, confirm that you're married. They already had it on file in their file, and you call them up, and I can talk to a representative, but it does no good because the person that did it was over in Pennsylvania. Then the next person did it was over in Nevada because the VA does this, what's work share. Whoever does the most work, the quickest gets more work. That's how work share works in the VA.
That's
So,
a big incentive.
but, I don't know how to,
That's
I just sit there and try to monitor it and try to push when I can push, but
Thank you.
yes, sir. Blue Water, not just Blue Water Navy, the Blue Water Navy, like I said a few months ago, they come back and said, okay, if you were within 12 nautical miles of the shoreline of Vietnam, you're considered the same benefits as in-country Vietnam veterans. That happened, like I said, a few months ago. Now, January 1st, they added 3 presumptives for Vietnam veterans. There's several diseases and cancers that have contributed to being exposed to Agent Orange. They had Parkinson's, but they added something else called Parkinsonism. I've never heard of it. I looked it up. It's basically, you don't have Parkinson's, but you still have the trembling and the shaking. Hypothyroidism and hypertension got added to that. So what does that mean for Sawyer County? We had veterans in the past that have filed for these things knowing that they were going to get denied, but we did it because of this instance. Now I've had 2 veterans so far this week come in, or this month I should say, come in, and we've went back to the VA and said fix it. But I am a little concerned about, and I got this out to our veterans as best I could so far, and I'll keep beating the drum, is our spouses of those veterans who passed away from these diseases that weren't presumptives in the past, that are now considered presumptives. I can go back and file a claim for that spouse and those dependents. So I guess that's the hottest thing going on right now. But
Thank you, Gary.
yes, sir.
Thank you, Gary. Any other questions for Gary? Okay, all right, appreciate it, Gary. Appreciate everything you do. All right, then, moving on to number 8, information technology report. Mike,
Linda has her hand up.
do this public comment or? Okay. IT department report. Mike?
All right, thank you. Had a busy month. We had a number of projects completed here. Small courtroom. Had some new displays they wanted to replace for a while. That's done. The new jail phone system is working. We had to insert some new wireless access points for that to work. So that's working now. It should bring in some more revenue for their canteen fund. A lot of new laptops were distributed over the past couple of months for several departments, mostly Sheriff and Human Services. The cost was covered by reimbursement, so people are using those now. Other than that, we're still working on cybersecurity training for staff. No updates on that for the moment, but other than that, do you have my report? take any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mike?
Thank you for all you do.
No, it's good. Appreciate that, Mike. Okay, moving on then to number 9, Human Resources Report. Rose?
Hello. You have my report showing turnover. We are interviewing for deputy clerk of court and economic support positions next week. We've got the highway shop mechanic. We've made the offer and the gentleman has accepted. So he's pretty much hired. We did reach out and make an offer to the CCS service facilitator candidate we had. We're recruiting for the part-time deputy register of deeds. We had a part-time one who then transferred to the full-time position, so now we're going to try and fill that part-time one. And we are recruiting for part-time and full-time male jailers still. And we are finally going to move forward and recruit for those open EMS positions that we have had open for quite a while.
Rose, can you elaborate on the CCS facilitator offer? Is it look positive?
It does look positive. The candidate has a family issue at the moment, so, but we're working through it.
Yes, Mr.
The
Kinsley.
EMT's positions, if we fill them, are the people that we presently have employed, do they work overtime to fill the positions? Will that save us money?
It will. Nate's looking at perhaps staffing a little bit differently. We're gonna try and make a change where 6 days of the week, we have a third full-time staffed ambulance for 12 hours a day. And that it'll save us on overtime, but it'll also improve transports. You know, we'll have an ambulance already staffed and ready to go out and do transfers. So we are kind of, the 2 positions, we have 2 EMT basic positions open and 2 AEMT, the advanced. But what we're gonna end up hiring are 2 paramedics and 2 advanced. And then that way we'll be able to have that third ambulance staffed for 12 hours a day. Hopefully during the busy time, which is always hard to predict what it is, but
Rose, did I hear that ambulance is possibly moving to a 2-man crew in some of our garages versus the 3 with the chase car? What is that? Is that part of your?
that's part of this.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so the ambulance will have a paramedic and a AEMT or an EMT.
Yeah.
But then during the 12 hours that third ambulance is not staffed, it'll go back to having 3. You know, that Hayward ambulance garage will have 3 and Ojibwa will have 3.
Great. Anything else for Rose and HR? Mr. Schluter?
Yeah, just a curious question. How are we doing if somebody is working for a different ambulance and ours, and that's fairly common, right?
Yes.
How are we doing if this person comes off of a 8, 10, 12-hour shift, and now he's going to work a shift for ours, and did we get that straightened out so they're
Well,
not going to have so many waking hours in a row that they're working?
when we very first went full-time in 2017, the board did make a change and kind of put it back on the employee, that the employee needs to show up ready to work.
Yes.
Yes, and I have not heard of any concerns where we've had somebody coming in too tired to work.
Okay. Good. It's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Anything else for Rose and HR? Not. Thank you. Appreciate it, Rose.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 10, County Administrator's Report. Mr. Hoff?
You have my report, any questions?
Let's start off with, I got one question with 27 parts.
No, I've got some things I wanted to update you on. Since the county board meeting in December, I took some time off over Christmas and New Year's, and then was under quarantine for a while there as well. So back at it and ready to roll here. So not a lot of new things, but I just wanted to update on a couple of things that we've talked about previously. The courtroom construction, I did speak with the architect, John Kane from Venture. This week, we're working through the issues on structuring the bids for construction there. And we'll have more information at this county board meeting just to update where we're at status wise, and then looking towards February to maybe take action on the funding issue, which was the other piece that we need to get in place before we proceed. So that's kind of the timeline and the game plan for those issues. The other piece of the Municode project that we've talked about before, that's where we're doing the codification of our ordinances. We've got a meeting, I believe, next week with the attorneys at Municode to begin that discussion. They've reviewed all of our ordinances, and so we need to get Lynn up to speed on that project as well, because we've got a lot of review. We've got a lot of questions on needing some backup data in order to get everything in order to improve that product that we put out when we get that project completed. A lot of discussion on airport issues. We're doing a survey to correct some easements out there that were done when they rerouted the road a few years ago. So we've got some cleanup happening there. We've got some improvements at the airport happening this spring with the taxi lane project. We talked a little bit last night about the hangar leases. There are hangars at the airport that are privately owned but on county land. So there's leases that allow them to use that land of ours for their hangars. And so we've got some cleanup to do on those leases that came to light as we had that lease come up last month with Hayward Aviation. So working through that, we'll bring that back to Public Works next month, and then you'll see something at the county board as well on those. We had a good discussion last night at Public Works on some airport issues. Representative from Jack Links, who has a big hangar at the airport, came in, and so we had a discussion with them with regard to NOTAMs, the notice to airmen. Those are the notifications that the county airport puts out notifying planes coming in about weather conditions at the airport. So there were some issues last month. So just working through how those NOTAMs are put out and the weather kept track of, so that we don't have issues at the airport with not proper notifications.
Mr. Hoff, last night, the Jack Links, was he one of their pilots?
I'm not sure what his official title is. He is a pilot, but I don't know what his
You mentioned
operational.
something about the county has a significant amount of liability with the airport. Even though we have an FBO with Hayward Aviation and they run it for us. Is that a concern? I mean, that kind of.
I think his point is, when you're flying above the ground, there's always potential for bad things to happen. So there's a liability in the sense of, we're running an airport where these planes are coming in and out of. So, we do have Hayward Aviation has a separate airport liability policy because there's, unique things that happen at an airport that don't happen anywhere else. So, and that comes to, the point of the NOTAMs and getting proper notification to planes coming in or taking off about, is there ice, is there snow on the runway, what kind of conditions, is there, mowing going on, all these things that add potential issues, getting proper notifications out. Does that answer your question?
That helps, yeah.
Okay. Working through an issue on the Price Dam with Town of Winter regarding the maintenance of that, just working through that with Jay in Conservation. We were going to have an update on some litigation that the county's involved in. We'll do that next month in a closed session. Just an update, there's always either potential litigation or ongoing things happening. So we'll just give you a brief update on some of the things that we're keeping an eye on. If there is any potential litigation, of course, we work with our insurance company who assigns help in that regard. And we've talked a little bit about that, like with the Perch Lake situation, the high water situation at Perch Lake. We do get help from insurance to help alleviate any potential liability or claims against us on those kinds of things. So that's kind of the stuff that we'll talk about in next month. Next month, we'll also probably in admin here talk about the board policies. I talked to Tweet a little bit about this, like with the virtual meetings. We put in language at the beginning of the pandemic that allows virtual meetings, but you should probably review what's in there and make sure that that is what you want to have in there as we move forward. We've come a long way with virtual meetings. I think we've got the hang of it a little bit better than what we started, although we did have a glitch this morning. Mike, that issue that happened with the lockout happened again this morning. So we do have someone online that wasn't able to get in right away and would like to speak because they weren't able to get in due to a glitch during public comment. So if that works,
Go ahead, Mr.
I'll just add a couple more things and then we can bounce back to that. Is that all right?
Oh, sure.
Justice Point, we do have employees now. They're not employees of ours. They're employees of Justice Point, but they are now working on site to help with the CJCC kind of issues, the drug testing and that sort of thing. So their office is my old office and Diane McNamer's old office right next door. Then they're also allotted some space in the jail, I believe, to help, with the testing and the what's the process they do there.
Meeting in the, they meet with the inmates and they do assessments.
Assessments, yes. So they'll be working out of those two facilities and get us up and running, and we'll hear more about that in CJCC. The CAP team, and CAP stands for what, Dale?
County Ambassadors Program.
County Ambassadors Program. January 20th is the first virtual meeting for that. And I think board chair, vice chair, and myself had signed up. Troy Morgan had participated last month. But that meeting, keep that on your schedule for next week on the 20th.
Tom, could we put something out to all of our supervisors if there's any interest to be on that? I know I talked to, I think, Mr. Schlender in the past, and
What is it?
the County Ambassadors Program is where we speak with the legislatures down in Madison about our concerns. And previously we had gone down there in person, Jim, and went office to office and tried to promote our needs up here. And so we need some more support, and I'm looking for more supervisors that'd be interested in that. Mr. Kinsley would be, so.
Yeah, and then, there is some information too that, the CAP team is our opportunity 3 times a year to go down and talk to the legislators, but it's also key in working with WCA staff and the attorneys that they have and working, closely with the legislators on a day-to-day basis and getting a working relationship with those people so that, as you see these resolutions come forward, kind of these statewide things, and you see them come from other counties. We passed this resolution and said to send it out to all counties. Some of those have come up from these CAP team discussions where, this is a thing that would be helpful all around the state. Let's get other counties to pass a resolution that has this information in it. And so some of those, are generated out of these kinds of discussions. So it is a good process. And with that, is there any other questions for me?
Anything new on your group for long-term care?
Yeah, I do have some information. Actually, we got the Winnebago bills through November. We're at about 900,000 in 2020 that we spent on people in Winnebago, which is a very high number. And we've had that discussion with other county administrators. There's that's an ongoing topic. It's not something that's going to be cured immediately as far as what can happen, but it's certainly the number one thing on our radar. And that was, as our county administrators group met, that was one of the highest issues around the state.
That was a group I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
Right. So we haven't seen the final product. We had a meeting amongst all the administrators, and they were going to put a formal document together that kind of outlined what the priorities are for, around the state.
Mr. Schlender.
So regarding the action that we took with virtual meetings, I think we put a 1-year cap on that. Are we coming up against that cap? Or is this something that we want to make, probably consider doing permanent? Because it's going to have an impact on public safety if we have to revert back to our original rules on virtual participation.
Right, and I don't know that there was a 1-year cap. There was some language in there like you could do virtual 3 times a year, but we've had board members go past that and allowed to do that, but we should update whatever you want that policy to be to reflect what's actually happening or what you want to have happen. Because I think the language initially contemplated before we knew what a pandemic was. We've kind of learned a lot since that language was put in. So it'll give you the opportunity to address some of those things that are kind of outside of what is in the policy now.
And then,
Understand.
because I mean, following up with that, the masking order that the governor had issued, doesn't that expire next week or something?
Yeah, I don't know what the date is on that.
Well, I know that that's coming up and that's going to be an issue and everything's an issue. I think that we should probably, it would be my position that we try to do something to make it permanent for the virtual participation. I think this is something that's this is not a fad. This is going to be a legitimate issue going forward. And if we have this, because we didn't do a permanent, we did a temporary change for the virtual participation. We need to make that final or permanent so that there isn't any questions. I have a board member or a committee member on public safety that if we remove the virtual component, he's not going to be able to participate. So I'd like to get that addressed.
All right, I understand that. And Jim, I'll be happy to put that on our February agenda for this committee, and maybe we could get some language out so that these folks could look at it prior to that meeting. Yep, understand. Okay, Mr. Schluter.
Yeah, just for the record, I understand all the benefits, but I still prefer face-to-face meetings. And if a committee member, a board member, I feel should not be missing attending meetings just because it's convenient. In the case of a job, that's not just a case of convenience. That's different. But I don't feel like driving in tonight. I'll just go online and listen.
I agree.
I'm opposed to just steamrolling the virtual in.
So you can discuss those pros and cons
Yeah.
on an agenda item next month.
Correct.
That'd be good to have.
And if anyone on the admin committee wants to get some language to Tom, that'd certainly be acceptable for us to look at. Okay? Anything else for Mr. Hoff and the county administrator's report? Okay, thank you, Tom. If not, then we'll move on to future agenda items.
If you-
Go ahead.
If you could allow public comment too,
Oh.
because they weren't allowed to get on initially. Is that
Is their
okay?
hand still up? I will allow. Okay, good morning, Linda. I'm sorry we missed you during public comment. I'm open to, or the admin committee is open to hear from you then?
Thank you very much. Wanted to just add, if you could bear with me, I have a couple comments this morning. I know in the previous meeting, there was recognition of the late Supervisor Troy Morgan, and I did appreciate his contributions. As folks know, maybe we had different opinions, but I especially appreciated when he would offer his experience in, say, parliamentary procedures or helping guide a committee along when it seemed to be stuck procedurally. So just this week, we had a question come up on whether roll call was necessary or not. And I know you'll be looking at policies and procedures again. A question I had that I would appreciate if somebody would follow up with me after this meeting. In the minutes that you approved today, there was a closed session, and then the minutes did not reflect whether any action was taken after the closed session. So my follow-up question would be, was there action taken in the closed session, or was there no action taken? So new year, new county clerk, good opportunity to look at how do we do things, or how do you do things, and why does the county do them that way going forward? As a follow-up to the airport discussion, and I virtually attended that meeting last night, there were some maybe concerns that were raised and the discussion went on, and I appreciated the comment that after some discussion, it was like a comment was made that, well, maybe it should be on a future agenda. And along with that, I had asked a committee member some months ago about who is responsible for and who provides security at the airport. So I guess maybe I'm thinking of, in light of more unrest, drug trafficking, human trafficking, having sat in on some of those contract meetings, I guess I don't recall seeing anything about security. And then finally, the Comprehensive Planning Committee for the county has resumed meeting this month. And even before the pandemic, that committee struggled to get complete membership. And it was a great loss to not have Supervisor Morgan with us going forward. And it's also problematic that the chair of the zoning committee has not been attending in person or virtually. And so if I'm not sure how replacements get appointed and confirmed, but please put that as a future agenda item to revisit how the comprehensive planning effort should go forward and filling vacancies. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Linda. Yep. Okay, thank you, Tom. All right, moving on, number 12, other matters for discussion only. Yes, sir.
So how does the board handle, is there anything to be done to recognize Mr. Morgan? I mean, is there a plan?
Great question, Jim. I was certainly going to have a moment of silence next week for him. What a great man. I was actually going to ask Dale to say some words. But other than that, I don't.
I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
thanks, Jim. No, but I've been thinking about that.
And then, in light of the openings, is there a time frame when you anticipate having those positions filled? Because some of the committees are being impacted by that.
Yep, I was going to bring that up too. As everyone knows, we have District 4 and District 9 open for supervisors right now. So I asked Lynn, our new county clerk, to post in the paper for letters of interest, and maybe you could comment, Lynn, on where we're at with that.
As soon as you gave me the directive, it went as an email to the newspaper.
I did give you the directive, correct?
Yep, you
Okay.
did, and it went to the newspaper.
Okay.
Timing wise, because they only publish one day a week, I haven't seen this week's paper.
I have received several, actually maybe one or two for each, but I would like to reach out to more people and see if there's more interest out there. Mr. Hoff, is there a deadline?
There's no technical deadline, obviously, as alluded to, the committees suffer by not having, difficulty getting a quorum. And then, if we do have issues that come before the full board that need, a 3/4 vote or so, you're going to struggle with that without enough participants.
Yeah, but to answer your question, Jim, I don't think I have enough to make a move this month, but for sure next month.
What's the
Or
procedure?
replace.
Do you just pick and then that person comes on board? Or what?
No, I select someone and present it to the full county board to accept.
Okay, it's just that the Monday economic development one, those were 2 seats that went down. I know Mr. Sleater, graciously showed up, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a permanent appointment or if you just want to come hang out with me all week or.
No, we asked him to attend, Jim, because the new quorum might be an issue. So that's what we're looking at, and hopefully we have more applicants so that we can take care of this. Mr. Kinsley.
In the newspaper a little while back, there was information regarding some of the court system. And I certainly am no expert about the court system, but they're talking about possibly some of the cases being moved out to LCU. Is there any way we can get some kind of update on that kind of information? So the CJCC is part of the entire comprehensive plan for the criminal justice system for Sawyer County. When Justice Point was brought on board, when they did their, I don't know if they did an interview or if they just did a visit with the tribe. The tribe's attorneys had some pointed questions in terms of what the jurisdictional component is. And it's been an issue that's been discussed in the past. And it has to do with recognition of the tribal courts capacity and also the sovereign capacity. So think about it this way. If you drive to Minnesota and you get a speeding ticket, by virtue of entering into Minnesota, you've agreed to the jurisdiction of that state. And so if you get a ticket, it's not a plausible argument to say, well, I'm from Wisconsin, I'm not going to recognize your ticket. Well, the same function exists for the reservation. The reservation has a constitution, has laws, it has a court system, and it has a responsibility for the safety for the people and the citizens and the guests and the people that come through there. So when you drive onto the reservation, you're consenting to the jurisdiction. Now, the only things that interfere with that has been some Supreme Court decisions in terms of criminal conduct. And so the criminal conduct has to do with the punishment that comes from breaking the law. And so criminal conduct has to do with locking somebody up. The tribe doesn't have the capacity to incarcerate people, and there's a legal question in terms of whether or not someone who comes on the reservation can be incarcerated under tribal law. Now, there's a distinction between tribal and state and then federal. And so the state of Wisconsin has a federal statute that's called Public Law 280, which allows for the federal authority to be delegated to the state authority so that the laws can be enforced on reservation because of the fact that there's some people who don't want to recognize tribal sovereignty. And so, but it's a really complex matrix in terms of how that comes forward. So the question has been, well, what about civil actions, traffic? Traffic is considered not criminal, it's considered civil because you're not going to incarcerate someone just because they're breaking the speed limit. And so what's been happening is the deputies have, for lack of a structure, if the Sawyer County deputies issue a citation, they are transferring them off to state court. And there's a question of whether or not the state court has authority to enforce that on reservation. So we were trying to sort that out, because if a tribal deputy issues a citation and it's a non-tribal member or someone who's not enrolled in a tribe, then there's a question of the jurisdiction. Well, there's never been a question of the jurisdiction. There's just a matter of, do they consent to the ticket? So what happens with that component is the state court has, so if you get a speeding ticket in the state of Wisconsin, I think the base amount is like $175. Well, the actual punitive action of that is like $50 or $75 is what your ticket is. But then there's court costs and administration fees that go in place with that. The tribal court doesn't have those statutory requirements under their citation. So if someone gets a citation on reservation, their fine is probably not going to be the same as it would be as it would state court. All they need to do is consent. And you don't lose your American citizenship. You're not going to lose your car. All you do is pay your citation, which goes to the Department of Transportation for the state of Wisconsin, and you still get the point violation if that's what the court and the citizen deem appropriate. So there has been this constant communication. And so when this came out, there was a question from the tribal council asking, well, if you have these people coming on reservation and breaking the law, why are they giving a pass and going out to state court? And then people were saying, well, it's against the law. It's not against the law. It's a miscommunication. And what it comes down to is people are nervous about what tribal court does. And as a former tribal court judge, when I had a chance to explain to citizens,
they actually consented to the jurisdiction because the penalty and the consequence for speeding was less than it was, because there's been such legislative actions from Madison impacting the northern counties that almost all of the citation collected goes to Madison, and none of it stays in the county. Whereas if you go on reservation, we don't have that legislative interference, and it stays, it stays locally. So with that being said, there was an initial conversation that CJCC was going to have a conversation with the Tribal Governing Board. Sheriff Morotech has since issued some kind of directive saying that for non-criminal citations, so basically if you don't commit a felony, if you commit a felony, you're still coming to state court. But if you do a civil action, then it'll be heard in tribal court, and then the person who's been cited has the ability to appear in tribal court, and then they can request to be transferred out to state court. So, I mean, they still have the same rights as a citizen. It's just that the tribal court has the right to hear it first. That's basically it.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you, Jim. Mr. Schluter.
You said, it sounded like you said that the northern counties send all of their money that they collect to Madison. Is that as opposed to southern counties?
No,
It's all the counties.
so I'm going to do this because I have a hard time breathing through my mask. So the northern counties have historically been neglected in terms of the funding allocations that come from the general revenue. There's always this joke, north of Highway 8, north of Highway 27. And so, so if you take a circuit court similarly situated in, say, like Sawyer or Douglas or Vilas versus something that's down in Dane County, Waukesha County, those courts have because the fine is the same, it all goes to the same place. It's just that the distribution of those resources coming back stays in the southern part of the county, and so the northern county. So there's no reflection of that in any of the citations, because, well, they say, well, every county should be treated the same. Well, it is treated the same. They're just not recompensated in the same model, because the population density for the southern counties is the argument that they make, because we don't have as many people. Well, we don't have as many permanent people, but we have as many tourists and guests and people that come through there. And so that's just been a major issue. And that's something that, we always bring up when we have these visits with the legislature.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right, anything else? Tom, anything else? Other matters for discussion? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.